The honourable member for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke.
Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to rise on behalf of the transparency-loving residents of Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke to speak to Bill C-290, an act to amend the Public Servants Disclosure Protection Act. It's been fascinating to hear members from the NDP-Liberal government speak to this legislation. The Public Servants Disclosure Protection Act is a direct result of Liberal protection. Whistleblower protection was a cornerstone of the Conservative Accountability Act. It was the first substantive bill introduced by the new Harper government following over a decade of Liberal corruption that reached its climax with the sponsorship scandal. The Chrétien Liberals had given millions of dollars to well-connected companies to do little actual work other than to funnel the cash back to Liberal Party coffers. Canadians had grown tired of the arrogant, corrupt Liberals and demanded a change. And despite losing the election, the NDP and remaining Liberals refused to listen to Canadians. That's why the Socialist coalition voted against our Accountability Act and whistleblower protection. I saw the bow-tied banker from Ajax join with the failed punk rocker from Timmins James Bay in voting against the whistleblower protection. And as different as those two members may appear, they share the same inverted belief that people should serve the government instead of the government serving the people. Now, if Canadians had any doubt about this NDP Liberal government's contempt for whistleblowers, just look at their track record. One of the first acts this government did was to redirect a shipbuilding contract to their friends. When multiple people shared that information, what did this Prime Minister do? He called Vice Admiral Norman a criminal and said the Admiral would face the courts. Mark Norman spoke truth to power and paid a heavy price. I know he thinks this Prime Minister is not worth the cost. When another whistleblower leaked the story of Jody Wilson-Raybould being pressured into direct prosecution, this Prime Minister called the report fake news. He then fired Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott and kicked them out of caucus to boot. This government is so repulsed by truth and accountability, they attack the people the whistleblowers try to protect. Then there was the multiple whistleblowers who tried to do the right thing at the Sustainable Development Technology Corporation. They followed the procedures. They reported it to the Deputy Minister. The Deputy Minister even compared it to the Liberal sponsorship scandal. That same deputy said his minister would blow a gasket upon learning the damning information. Except nothing happened. No gaskets blown, no executives were fired, no board members sacked, rampant conflicts of interest, comparisons to the sponsorship scandal, yet it wasn't until the whistleblowers went to the Globe and Mail that anything happened. Swap out the word sustainable development with foreign interference, and we see a similar story. If not for the CSIS whistleblower, Canadians would still be in the dark about the extent of the communist interference. Our Conservative Party was attacked in the last two elections. The government knew it and covered it up. The Liberals have spent the last 8 years pushing conspiracy theories about Russia to smear Conservatives. The last thing they needed were credible reports. They had received assistance from the communists who control China. If not for the CSIS whistleblower, there would not be a public inquiry into the foreign interference. Now, given the recent partisan comments by the judge and her selection of the interveners, we may still not have an actual public inquiry. Even the hand-picked special rapporteur actually confirmed many of the CSIS leaks were accurate. He confirmed the member for Don Valley North did engage in secret meetings with the Communist consulate in Toronto and did discuss the two Michaels. That member would still be sitting in the Liberal caucus were it not for the whistleblower. Then this Prime Minister sent his National Security Advisor out to speak to reporters just to let them know this government is actively hunting for this whistleblower. NSA Thomas actually said the whistleblower would be caught and punished. The Liberal government's declaring a whistleblower guilty without a trial again. It's as though they learned nothing from Vice Admiral Norman. and his persecution. That's why we must pass this bill. The NDP-Liberal government will continue to ignore lessons unless we update the legislation. After 8 years of Liberal corruption, whistleblower protection must become stronger. The Liberals claim this is unnecessary because they budgeted $2 million for a special task force that's supposed to review a committee report from 6 years ago. Madam Speaker, they can save taxpayers $2 million and just support the legislation.
You guys are supporting it.